Assalamu alaikum. Good evening and welcome everyone in our last session in Al Majlis today. So today in our sixth session, titled as The Best Wrong Choice. I really do love the title. Today's conversation will challenge the narrative around failure and change our perspective toward mistakes and to adapt the growth mindset. Please join me in welcoming our special moderator, Mr. Zubair Junjunia. Please welcome our special guest for today, Mr. Ahmad Alzaini. And welcome our second guest, Henson Tsai. Thank you, everyone. Enjoy your session.
Assalamu alaikum. Good evening. And this is the last session, so thank you for being energetic and staying till the end. Today we're going to have a really interesting discussion. We are on a stage with all founders. I'm also a founder and CEO. And so we are definitely doing a lot of mistakes when we're building a startup. And I think there's a lot of misconception and challenge in the narrative when we talk about failure. We love to talk about failure of we like to talk about Steve Jobs leaving and being kicked out of Apple and then coming back from Pixar and all these kind of great glamorized stories about failure, but we only like to talk about failure when we see success at the end of it, right? We don't talk about failure when it's happening in a day-to-day basis. So today I'd love to have these amazing panelists share their experiences and challenges that they face right now, how those moments of failure and mistakes led them to new ideas and innovation, and particularly go deeper into their organization's structure and culture, which enables failure to be part of their DNA. Because unless we're accepting that vulnerability and transparency to talk about failure, I don't think we can make that a success. So I would love to kick off the discussion, firstly just to learn a little bit more about what each of you are building. So Ahmed, I'd love to hear what Foodics is all about, and then we can go into the discussion.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's such a great place to be surrounding with such a positive energy here. And while we are sitting this session, I learn more from the entrepreneurs we are here. And when I found Hassan comes from Hong Kong with a very promising SaaS business in the region in communication, that's really make me proud that Saudi is becoming a hub in the Middle East. Foodics is, I found Foodics with my co-founder back in 2014, where entrepreneurship as a definition is not even known or recognized. When I founded Foodics, I was not able to recognize myself as an entrepreneur. It's just a side business, while everybody in the region was just looking for jobs in Aramco or big institution or joint companies. And even the parents and families are encouraging people to go, my son, and work for big institution. And please stop wasting your time while you are coding and trying to sell, while big software businesses, global US-based companies that they are trying to offer in the region here. So me and my co-founder Mus'ab was studying at KFUPM, engineering, and we sensed the lack of technology at F&B industry, where we come up with the idea of digitalizing the restaurant sector. So we are offering restaurant management system and payment services for the sector, and nowadays we are in more than 30 cities worldwide, dominating the market in Saudi Arabia, the Gulf, and recently after our M&As activities, we are been active. We are expanded to North Africa, especially in Egypt. I'm very proud and very happy to be here in the session.
Thank you, Ahmed. Henson, over to you. Can you tell us a little bit more about what you're building and where it's going?
Of course. First of all, thank you everyone for staying towards the latest session. I guess I see the dedication here to listen to me and Ahmed on sharing our experience. So just a quick question first. Like, everyone here, anyone use WhatsApp on a day-to-day basis? Like, give a raise of the hand, right? Anyone of your company uses WhatsApp on a day-to-day basis? I guess like more than half of the people, right? So what SleekFlow actually does is we think that the future of the company communication is built on messaging. It's built on platforms like WhatsApp, Instagram, Facebook, how we can build a platform that allows companies to manage conversations across all these platforms for their sales, marketing, support, automation. And then going further, can any future apps be built with conversations? I can send a message on WhatsApp. I can compare the hotel prices. I can send a message on Instagram so I can get the product that I want, recommended by certain sales agent with AI as well. So this is what we do. SleekFlow is a platform that allows company to manage all these kind of messaging platform, build your messaging workflow, and sell better on these social channels. So I guess it's a big pain point. We started in Hong Kong around 3-4 years ago. But we have quickly expanded to countries like Singapore, Malaysia, in Dubai, in the UAE, in Saudi now, and then also in Brazil. So we see a great landscape here in Saudi. Everyone has been using messaging on a day-to-day basis. So that's why we're here. So glad to see everyone here for the session.
Thank you so much, both of you. Now that we hear their stories and their products, we think that this is a success, but I'm sure the journey has not been as clear-cut. I know, Henson, you mentioned this a little bit as well, but Ahmed, first to you. The moment you decided that you have this engineering degree, but you're going to instead choose this uncertain pathway where you said entrepreneurship wasn't even recognized, it was a very nascent space here. Was Foodics always exactly what it looks like today? Is it the giant that's emerging across MENA and growing further?
Absolutely not. So
absolutely not.
Foodics started as a digital menu. We are trying to digitalize the menu, and when we were sitting at the restaurant and find out the menu hand over to you by stickers just to change the pricing. And because of the cost of free printing, the menus are very expensive. And here where we come up, you know what, let's build tablets and just distribute a tablet to the restaurant. And then we figure out that the big business is in the point of sale. Take the point of sale and put it on cloud. And this is exactly where we find out. Speaking of the decisions or wrong decisions, let's say in 2013 and maybe 12, right after my graduation from the university, I have all the reasons to fail. Everybody here in the room are very lucky and proud being here and being pre-ready of all of the success that you need. The infrastructure is ready. The funding is available. The talents are everywhere, surrounding you. The concept of technology infrastructure are really available. Where 10 years ago, everything is really not even introduced or in the intermediate state. It's nothing. It's all about being real estate businessman. And I recall one day when I was reaching to an investor, and the investor wants to invest in my company. And I told him, Ahmed, I will take 80% of your company, and I will leave you 20, and I will make you GM of the company. I told him, okay, you will make me a GM of the company that I founded. Sorry. So this is the perception of investment is really changing dramatically. So again, I need to insist here that I have million reasons to fail. Million reasons to fail. And I cannot find any single reason today, any of the entrepreneur not to fail, not to succeed, sorry. One of the reasons that, for example, because of the infrastructure is not ready and the piece of advice wasn't even available. Having an advice to scale my business even is not available. I cannot find the right advisor to tell me, hey, Ahmed, don't do this, do that. While I يعني I'm really excited to have such great entrepreneurs like Hassan and all of the people here that they have been through it. Being through it and engaging with the ecosystem, this with the economy and the GDP of any nation is improving. For example, my CFO is sitting in front of me. One of the biggest mistakes that I had do is not hiring a CFO in the beginning. And I was just looking into the CFO function. It's just a cost center. And me and my co-founder is a technology, is a CTO. I'm a product and a business person. Okay, you know what? Financing is just a piece of Excel sheet, and that's it. But in fact, thanks to Abdullah, that I don't know why you joined me, but he was in a very stable company, in one of the biggest telecom company in Jordan, and when Abdullah joined me, he really changed the whole company in terms of financial. So being successful in business, it's not only by offering, by even organizing your box. So this is one of the, I can go on and on and on. I have millions of mistakes I have been through in the past 10 years, but I need to leave some space to my colleague. Thank you.
Make more mistakes. Henson, over to you. Tell us about your journey. Was SleekFlow always the product that it is today? How has it changed over the years?
I have made a lot of mistakes in SleekFlow, but I won't call that failures, because once you can learn from it, you get feedback from it, you can never name it a failure. So for myself, I actually started my first company when I was studying in London, in college. I actually made a smart home devices back in 2013, and that smart home devices can work with Siri, Alexa, anything like that, to control very old-fashioned curtains. So I actually sell that devices and make my kind of first exits as a company. So I feel very proud as a college student kind of doing that, having that success as well. Later on, I worked as a bank trader. I make more money so that I could start my own venture. But that is when the first kind of mistake came. I actually started working on food takeaway first, like food delivery takeaway platform. It's a really competitive market. We expanded the team from 3 people to around 10 in just half a year time. But I will have to kind of click that button to fire the team, to leave only 3 people again in just 6 months.
Wow.
So that was really tough, right? Imagine at that time, we were selling lunch boxes with a margin of $2 per lunchbox. And when people get refunded for lunchbox, we have to pay more than 10 US for each refunds. So essentially, we don't have any margin in that businesses. Very tough one. And they actually make the pivot. We realized that a lot of the restaurants are taking bookings not just with apps. They're also taking bookings with messaging, with people texting them, with people placing orders on WhatsApp as well. So now we actually changed that to SleekFlow, a software that have company to manage messaging. So yeah, that was a pretty tough decision that I have to make when I was 24 years old. I started the company in 23 years old. So yeah, that was pretty tough. Afterwards, because of the pandemic came, our whole company scales pretty fast. People are looking for solutions to sell remotely, to sell on social channels. And that's how we kick off as well. So yeah, this is kind of the journey that I've been. I've got a lot of mistakes, as Ahmad also mentioned, millions of mistakes that we made day-to-day basis. But as entrepreneurs, sometimes you get to have that courage to start and never look back as well. So I guess I never kind of regret as well.
Of course. But thank you so much for your vulnerability, both of you, for sharing your mistakes, but also looking back at it in this kind of retrospective, introspective perspective. So we've talked a little bit about the pivots and the decisions that you guys made. We glorify failure and mistakes, but what if we go deeper into the kind of the agility with which you approach those mistakes and failures? When you talked about the CFO hire being a key function that you were not even thinking about, but when you realized it was there, it was so important. Tell me about an experience where it only kind of it only dawned on you how important that decision was, even though it looked like small in the beginning. But when you actually made that decision, like, wow, that was a profound change in my organization, and particularly on the agility, like, because as a founder you are agile. That's why we can compete with big corporates. We can move and change and evolve and pivot. So can you talk about an experience that really helped, that kind of captures that?
Definitely. Founders by itself, when we, maybe the founding team is like a family to you. So you're really attached to the team founding members. And that is a big mistake. One day, you need to have a bold decision to get rid of your founding team. Because, and this is a very hard decision. And one of the important thing here, I advise everybody in the phase that you need to carefully choose your founders. Founders are the hardest removal or hardest, let's say, role. So make sure that to pick the right founder team. Because the founder team as an employee, the first year, it's easy. It's the emotion and the emotion element is the only challenge to remove them. But you have to do it in order to scale. In my experience, every leader in the company has an expiry date, and you speak of the agility.
Yeah.
And here where keeping leaders that they are not agile enough with the same velocity of the founders is a big mistake. Well, in 2022, after we raised our biggest round, also this is a big lesson learned we need to talk about. So after the biggest round we did, we just start hiring a lot, and post-COVID, the concept of accepting working remote was a big mistake. Not for the whole department. For example, working remote can, in my experience, engineering is okay. You can have engineers working remote. But for example, product team, that they have to be very close to your customer and to be customer-centric, hire them abroad, it's a big mistake that we did. And we did a bold decision to terminate all the team. And we have a very accurate decision that all product team has to be in our head office in Riyadh. And given said that, the efficiency of the spending, and the CFO is here, increases very high. And here where everyone, alhamdulillah, lucky that we have a very high margins, we have a very deep, we are well-funded and profitable, path of profit is very healthy. And this is where give you the agile and the buffer to support, to forgive your mistakes. While small businesses and early stage businesses that they are really, every dollar it's worth in spending right. So that's why you need to turn on the efficiency exercise and to let the emotion aside. And you really want to build. And even if you are a very small company but funded, you really want to build a very perfect performance evaluator. And it is 0 or 1. This talent delivered, he's welcome to continue in the company. He's not delivered, you don't need to waste time, because the payroll is actually burning from your dilution in your equity weight in your company while you are not aware of. So that's why you need to put always a spotlight that every employee in the company that they are not performing well, actually he's hurting your percentage in the company down the road. So this is one of the lessons that where we put it.
I would love to come back to this kind of point around again, in startups, we have this kind of, especially the founding team plays such a big role. We do end up referring, and many companies do refer, oh, this is our family. But the difference between a family and a team is the family is you don't choose your family, but a team you do get to choose.
Yeah.
And I think it's very, very important to realize the difference. And I think there's one more question I want to come back to you about the company culture. I think you've really touched upon a really great point. But Henson, before we move to that, I want to just kind of throw that same question back to you, because again, you pivoted, you realized something, and there was some agility in how yes, you made the mistake, but you also adapted and changed to it. So tell me a little bit more about an experience which you can maybe exemplify that agility.
I think a lot of people mention about persistence, being the founders as well. But a lot of the times I was asked about how do you define persistence? If you face that obstacles, let's say in my first venture, how do I actually make that pivot, desire to give up and start another company? So I guess echo back to the points that Ahmed also raised. It's sometimes you have to set the benchmark for the whole team, for people, for yourself, that you have to stick to it. So I think making decisions are tough for founders, but especially on people is something that you will have to place as well, no matter how attached you are with the people as well. One thing I also want to mention about is I think a lot of big decisions are actually composed of smaller baby steps every single day.
Agreed.
So I think in SleekFlow we have a culture of a growth mindset. We want people to be passionate and also having that perseverance, helping them to grow 1% every single day. And essentially after years and years and years, they realize how much they have grown. We don't penalize for one mistake they made, but we reward them with a lot of accumulated growths they made. So yeah, I think that's one of the SleekFlow culture. There's no one big decision, but make sure that you're growing every single day, yeah.
You've really touched upon exactly the next question that I had, which is all around culture. So as a startup, you get to determine your startup's culture. And the founders play a big role in the dynamic, the way the organization operates. Even if it's language, if you can tell the difference between different companies' way of communication, because the founding team has such a big influence on how a company talks and it behaves and interacts in the market. So we talked about this kind of family versus team, nomenclature. Let's go into the culture, and Ahmed, specifically that if a team member in your company makes a mistake, is it a thing that they kind of hide in the corner and not talk about, or is it something that they bring to the front? And how do you create a culture, not just at the leadership level, but across the team, where failure or mistakes are at least visible and not penalized straight away? What do you do to make that a more, as Henson described, a growth mindset?
First of all, mistakes are okay. Doing mistakes are okay. And this is what you need to promote in your culture and your company. Please do mistakes. I admit as a founder to my team and to the investors, sorry, we did mistakes. We are learning. We are in a business that it is high risk and disrupting the market by bringing and trying and do some tests. So we need every leader has to build a fair culture. What does a fair culture? That spending effort is appreciated. So at least try to do the mission. If you did a mistake, I will thank you again, because you are. I recall we pay bonus for engineers only. So the company did not achieve the revenue target, but the engineers worked hard to deliver the product that the operation team has to deliver them. But unfortunately, we did not for any reason. We give bonus for the engineers just to appreciate the effort. So you need to build the culture that you need to appreciate a good effort. Hiding mistakes. This is where happening when the organization focus on not focus on the deliverable and the one goal of achievement. So if you are not having a really a clear objective, that causes the toxic environment where blaming culture is being appear. And this is why exactly this, because you don't have an operation, a performance department or system in the company. So even if you only are 20 members, the startup, you need to build this performance system that by that you are performing the skill. And by the way, being and creating a transparent culture is very important by addressing the point that, hey, team, we know that we failed. How we can do things better in the next option. By the way, speaking of also trying an effort, we just closed our Series B. And we find our benchmark in the US, Toast, has listed in the NASDAQ with a $30 billion valuation. And then when we compare their business with our numbers, we figure out that we are 30% of their business, 30% of the number of stores their business. We just took the whole chiefs in a plane and then went to the Silicon Valley and then just meet all of the people that they are appreciating our business model and just benchmark our performance comparing to Toast. And I recall the first board meeting we did for Series B that we just closed. We did it in San Francisco. And then the board goes, Ahmed, why you are there? We are fundraising, dear new board. So we really come back with 170 million, the biggest round here. And this is where trying is not a mistake. Trying, and if you even fail, at least you definitely will gain some lessons to improve or to not repeat it.
I have a quick follow-up question before I come to you, Henson. Leadership and displaying the virtues of a growth mindset as a leader. So how do you propagate this down into your team, into your chiefs, into your operational team, into the entry-level roles? And how do you balance vulnerability of sharing your mistakes, but also the strength that everyone needs, because they need to point at you and say, Ahmed, you're our leader. We need to be able to learn from you and draw strength from you. Yeah. So being too like, oh my gosh, I'm failing here. If you're telling your board you're failing all the time, that also creates a different image. But if you don't say any failure, then you kind of create a blame culture. So how do you balance it? What have you done to kind of create that? What leadership traits are you displaying to make that happen? Yeah.
So today we are 700 almost employee. So we are not that small company, but I recall the mission is becoming more challenging while the team is becoming bigger and bigger. And how you make your mission simpler is by simplifying the objective of the company. And instead of having 7 OKRs, just make it at least 2 OKRs, main goal, and then one. It's nice to do it. It's not, if we can do it by having a simple objective that you can cascade the communication, because what's really important matter here is the communication. How the top management, the CEO and the chief, and the team that they are on the ground, there's a mid-managers. The mid-managers, you do need a broken phone. So you need always to have a very the clarity on sending the messages and the mistakes to the whole company. As much as possible, developed windows and channels to communicate with the whole team. And you really want to depend on your chiefs. So as a leader, this is where we have chiefs. The expert people in the company are the chiefs, not the CEO only. I'm a founder. And there were conducting more communication channels with the chiefs to the team. Having all minds every week. So we meet with the whole team every week for 1 hour, engage and sharing mistakes and celebrating success. So as much as possible, your effort as a CEO become not to run the day-to-day operation, is to run as a chief support officer, internal communication officer, you really want to amplify all of what happened in the kitchen to rest of the company.
Correct.
And this is your really day-to-day work.
Thank you, Ahmed. Very, very insightful. As you said, broken phone, I remember playing the Telephone Kharban game in my playground.
Yeah.
Henson, over to you. As a leader of tell us a little bit about the size of your team and how are you propagating a culture of growth mindset?
So we actually have more than 150 people
Wow.
across 7 countries right now.
Okay.
One of the very key value that I want to emphasize in SleekFlow is actually being open. Being
Okay.
open. A bit of stories before that. I'm actually a solo founder. I started my whole company myself. And I think every solo founders would want to achieve a very high set of goals. They want people to kind of achieve what he would imagine and people kind of to follow in a sense, right? This is actually the first idea that I have. As a founder, I want to have a group of people that trust my dream, my mission, and follow the footsteps. But that was actually wrong. In the sense that we'll kind of realize that a manager is actually the support officer. Yeah. You are not the one actually stating how you do it. You are the one actually to raise problems, to set goals for people. Okay, you go to your sales head and said, want to achieve a certain number of roles in that region next year. What should we do? You keep asking questions. You keep making your mind open. A lot of people just thought that open is about being transparent in terms of your numbers, in terms of your revenue, etc. But it's not. It's more about how you keep raising questions to your teams, to your executive levels, allow them to give you the feedback, the solutions. Because when the time they're actually raising that feedback, they're raising the solution, they're owning that feedback themselves.
Correct.
They're actually more motivated to get that executed.
Yeah.
Instead of you pushing them to an idea or a solution
Yeah.
that you want to do as well. Yeah. So I think that's something that I learned over the past few years, to be open, to encourage people asking questions. And one thing is usually people thought that open, it's about the manager being open to the subordinates. But sometimes it's even harder when the working level has to be open towards the chief level, right? Because this is not something that they do on a day-to-day basis. How can you actually build rituals that encourage people to be open?
Yeah.
To try to give feedback to your seniors.
Yeah.
So we actually have a team meeting on a monthly basis. 150 people gather together and we reflect on what's happened in the past month. In the last team meeting, I actually sit down and say that I think that I've done something wrong myself towards the 2 other engineers in the team. And then we actually speak together what have we done wrong and what could we do better in the future and the next time as well. And those people are actually one of the founding team members as well. So I think these kind of communication, being transparent and open, admitting what you have done wrong, at the same time, allowing them to own more of their failures, own more of their tasks, is something that I think a company should build on. Yeah.
So to kind of assimilate some of the great insights that came out of those two questions was that culture of fairness, I think, is very, very important, and never to disregard effort.
Yeah.
Modeling the behavior you wish to see as a leader and showing the failures, but also kind of being successful. And thirdly, I think both of you talked about the importance for transparency and communication.
Yes.
Both of you are running large teams and yet still finding the moments. And obviously, 1 hour a week or 1 hour a month is something that's a cost, but you are assigning a value to that cost because it's playing such a big role in your company's growth. So now we have about 15 minutes left, and I had the privilege to ask so many great questions. So I want to give the opportunity to the rest of you as well to make this much more interactive. It's a majlis, we get to have a conversation. So please raise your hands, and I will have someone to take a mic around and ask questions. I saw your hand first, so is there a mic that we could have passed along? Let's give it a second. Can we have a mic at the front there, in the right? Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum,
Right,
Ryan. Good evening, everybody. Thank you, first of all, for the wonderful moderation and the excellent guests we have here. We've learned a lot from your stories. Thank you for your transparency. It's more of a comment and then followed up with a question, if you allow me. So you've used the term growth mindset. And sorry, let me introduce myself also. My name is Dr. Ahmad Alzaini. I'm a physician by background. And I've come across the concept of growth mindset very late in my life. The opposite of growth mindset, or the alternative, is a fixed mindset. And just for the audience, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the terms. I've always thought, when I was asked, what type of mindset do you have? Is it growth or fixed? I would have gone with the growth mindset. Until I learned what that actually means, and I was a complete opposite. And I just wanted to, my question to you is, we've been brought up mainly with a fixed mindset. So you're good at one thing, you reached that peak, you want to stay and do what you're really good at, and you avoid what you're bad at. You avoid venturing out. The growth mindset is finding that peak, then being ready to go to another challenge, tackling something you're uncomfortable with. So with that in mind, till you find the other peak. So with that in mind, would you describe yourselves as having fixed mindsets or growth mindsets? And if you had a fixed mindset, what did you do to change it to a growth mindset? Sorry for the long question.
Thank you so much, and thank you so much for actually kind of providing that context as well. I think it's the definition was super helpful. If you'll allow me to kind of just explain in an abstract sense, and then maybe I'll pass it to both of you if you think to share an answer. As an entrepreneur, not having a growth mindset is actually near impossible for you to be successful. In both the stories we heard not just of them achieving a certain peak, but we also heard about them realizing a peak wasn't high enough, or as lucrative as they wanted to be, or as successful as they wanted to be, and they moved to the next peak. So I think pivots are one way of describing the moments of moving from one peak to another. I think we've heard that in the story, but I'll ask them as well whether they believe their mindsets are growth mindset and fixed mindsets, and do they actually evolve? Like, do you move from a growth mindset to a fixed mindset when you get to a scale-up stage? Ahmed, and then Henson?
I think as a founder, and only founder, you need to be both. You need to be a fixed mindset and the growth mindset. Why I insist by the only founder? Because this is what entrepreneurs does mistakes in distracting the growth. How does distracting the growth? Either I'm assuming that you already has accomplished and reached to your MVP. So you proven that your product is really in the market and tested. So it's all a matter of scaling that. So if you just allow your leadership and team to be both mindset, then the excuses of lowering the growth will be raised off to you. So I'm from the school of, if you have the mindset, you have a chance to give it a try to be fixed mindset, yes. But after you're proving that, all your team has to convert to a growth engine and growth machine to have the really amplify and scale the business with a constantly. So it's not about after you reach to 2-3% market penetration, you say, okay, you know what, I'm boring, let's come to another ideas and just roll it. This is big mistakes. And actually you are increasing your burn, increasing your challenges because you are entrepreneur. And this is it's a big mistake. So you really want to focus in taking and never even think of changing the team whom building the operation engine until you reach, for example, 20-30 market share, and you have maybe build another team with a fixed mindset to ideate and have the ARPU story. This is my school.
Henson, any thoughts?
For me, I think too many people try to define growth mindset as revenue growth, market share growth. But in my perspective, there are a lot of different parts of growth that you can have. You can have personal growth. You can learn something from that experience. You can have mental growth. You can grow your teammates as well, right? So once you get less rigid about what kind of growth you get, you always found something that are actually growing. Even after a kind of failures, you feel that, okay, I actually learned from that experience. So next time when I do that market expansion again, I will not do that mistakes again and do that instead, right? So I think after all, try to blame yourself more sometimes and see what you can do better. and then you can try to learn from that. Don't put the blame on other people.
Yeah.
Put the blame on yourself and see what you can grow in every part of different growth. And that's what makes, I think, a founder successful. Yeah.
Thank you. More questions. I saw a hand there, so I'm gonna trying to be as fair as possible. So the first hand I see, there was a hand in the middle there. Yes, there. Is there a mic that we can get to the lady in the middle?
Hello, my name is Mona Uthman, and thank you for this very inspiring discussion. And actually, someone like you who made my best wrong choice by dropping my nursing professional and to start my business. And you have said, Mr. Ahmed, that it's very important to choose the founder. And I came across a lot of founder with a great idea, but they are maybe struggling to find the co-founder that have a skills that they needed. So I don't know if you can share with us some tips and advice where we can find the right CTO or CFO or co-founder for any startup. Thank you.
First of all, the question to me, sir. First of all, I think choosing the right co-founder is not about the expertise. It's about mentality. Maybe the best thing to it depends on your idea. If you are the founder of the idea founder, and not necessarily the founder become a CTO. It depends on what really the business or the sector is. But let's assume that it is a technology business. So you need to choose a founder that his mentality is really agile enough. He can understand enough with you. And by the way, where you can find them, definitely not your friends, and definitely not your family, and definitely not your maybe colleagues, but such an event, maybe in some of your colleagues, but this is where you will find your co-founder. And by the way, there is a very wrong perception that choosing your co-founders has to be before you start your business. No, you can start your business as a solo founder and then carefully promote one of your team or even your one of a relationship you came across, and you just, this is my co-founder. So you don't need to rush in choosing your co-founder.
Great point about the fact that you can select. It could be part of your founding team, and they could come 6 months, 12 months down the line as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely. There was a question at the end of the bench here. Is there a mic? Yeah.
Well, thank you, gentlemen, for the inspiring session. I missed Karim Benzema's session to attend yours because I know this is so important.
Thank you.
We were talking about failure and accepting mistakes, in this world of entrepreneurship. My name is Yassine Saka. I'm from Canada, and I'm executive coach for SMEs. Now, this subject comes a lot, okay? Now, you mentioned here a lot about, it's good to make mistakes. It's good to have, to fail at everything. And the people here will find this is a good idea. It's a very interesting idea. But when they go home, all right, they will not accept it. You know why? Because everyone is programmed not to make mistakes. We have been programmed in the schools. We have been programmed by the media, in the ads. Everything leads us to make perfect kind of decisions. So my question, I don't know how we can answer this. Okay, give us some, if you have some ideas just to teach people to make mistakes and accept failure from early age. How that can happen? Thank you.
Embracing mistakes. In the company, you kind of talk about mistakes more than achievement in a certain sense. Then people think, okay, if the company has to grow that fast, 3-4 times a year, it's very common for people to make mistakes. And then you embrace that as well. I think in schools, people get penalized when mistakes are made. When they get deducted for marks for the exams, when they make mistakes, they got penalized for all sorts, right? Mm-hmm. I think you have to kind of embrace that, talk more as a parent to your kids. What have you done wrong and what have you learned from that? Don't kind of put the focus on the actual things that were kind of wrong, put focus more on what you learn after that things. I think that starts from the parenting, and then the company will try to embrace that as well.
Yeah. I think the ecosystem needs a lot from you and more from an executive coach. I think I will share my story, my experience, and especially after engaging with a personal executive coach in the Bay Area, my life has been changed dramatically. And this is what very rare, you will find such an executive business coach. You can privately exchange topics and decisions with him. And this is really, I'm happy to see more executive coach in the region. And I'm insisting and advise everyone, even if you are a very early stage startup, you really want an executive coach to just talk with and take decisions. He will help you take the decision because decision is always your decision.
And sorry, I'm going to change my hat for a little bit from moderator to just like, I actually am a founder in the education space. And I would actually like argue whether it's not about teaching, but it's about learning, unlearning, and relearning. Because unfortunately, you're absolutely right. Our education system and how the assessment works is built on the bedrock of mistakes being penalized. And there are lots of experimental schools which are talking about a different approach. There are lots of great Finnish schools which have a play-based approach, and it's very amazing. But unfortunately, for the mass majority of young people in schools right now, they will go through a system where high-stakes assessments will be at the end of the system, and they will be determined by the mistakes they make. Right? They will end up in the career they choose, or university they choose. So my kind of reflection is 2 points. One is that maybe there are parents in the room. It is so incredibly important for parents to be vulnerable and show their kids the mistakes and the challenges that they're going through. They are in many ways leaders as well, and you know the kind of the modeling that children do at the young age. And the second part is to kind of embrace and help them understand their failures and make them understand to go further from there. And then, as Ahmed talked about, as you get into your professional career, having a coach is so key. And there are 2 types of individuals. Maybe some of you might have mentors in your lives. Mentors are very important. They are people you can learn from and you respect and you share values with, and they add in a very specific field or in a very general way. And I recently learned this. Again, I had an interaction, and I'm starting off a relationship with a coach in a little while. And I have a lot of mentors, but I don't have a coach. And the difference between a coach and a mentorship relationship was shared with me. And the coach, because of their accountability to you, a mentor being a little bit more like relationship-based and a coach being actually oftentimes a paid relationship as well, adds a lot of accountability. And secondly, it also adds that piece about unlearning and relearning, which I think is so important. If you're not really taking away the kind of the trauma and the experiences that you've had, which have pushed you down into thinking that failure is wrong, then you'll never get to a stage where you'll have successes like we have on the stage today, mashallah, where they have seen the failure and they've like evolved and they've challenged and they've grown from there. So thank you for sharing your question. I think that does bring us to the end of the session as well. Sorry for flipping the hat for a little bit. I had to jump in with the education mindset. Ahmed, Henson, it's been such a pleasure to be able to host you today, and very grateful, and I'm sure that the audience is as well, for your vulnerabilities and the kind of authenticity you did to share your stories. I'm sure you've all learned a lot. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Pleasure. Thank you very much.